Howdy, folks. Happy Thursday. We're one day closer to the weekend. Snowing in Buffalo, but not that bad. They had, just to start the pre-show, I actually got a little nostalgic, Russ, because tonight they're doing, in honor of the 50th anniversary of the Sabres, they've had a number of nights, honoring players from the 70s. Tonight is players from the 80s. And they adorned the seats at the KeyBank Center with the colors of the sections of the old Memorial Auditorium. So the lower bowl had gold. The second section
covers on them.
Yeah, I think they put T-shirts for the people who are.
So that's the best way. Yeah,
which is actually pretty cool. But yeah, it's like, I mean, you gotta remember, and for anybody who visits Buffalo, the section of where the canal side, the Erie Canal commercial slip, as they call it, that has like an underground or like an ice rink. That's where the Odd was.
Okay.
And I went to my first rock concert there in 1978, the Genesis on the And Then There Were Three tour. I went to numerous Sabres games until they moved out of there and moved across the street to now what's called KeyBank Center. So it will be a very, I mean, it's not the same building. It's not the same. I mean, Russ, I have to tell you, like the upper deck at the Odd would not meet code.
Yeah.
No, in the sense that the one end had like about 5 rows.
Right.
The other end had about 30 because it was an overhang over the lower bowl to the point that they had to have TV monitors so people could know what the time of the scoreboard was. But it was at such a steep angle that I remember a drunk guy falling down the stairs and only being prevented from falling off the upper deck by the bar at the end of the stairs, and numerous brawls between Leaf fans and Sabre fans and drunken stupors at the Odd. It was a great place to see hockey.
Yeah, I mean, I've never been there, but it sounded great. Wish I'd have gone.
All right, pre-show, go ahead.
All right, so after the Yankees made their signing of Garrett Cole, the Mets answered back with Michael Wacha, who hasn't been good in a couple of years, and Rick Porcello, who basically stole money from the Boston Red Sox. Now,
but he did win a Cy Young. I actually don't think those are bad signings because they're short term.
Yeah, I mean, but everything with the Mets is short term. So yeah, Porcello, they're both 1-year deals.
Right.
Porcello's a $10 million deal. I mean, I'm not mad about the $10 million. But when people say, well, he was a former Cy Young, well, you know what? So was Mickey Lolich when the Mets picked him up. And all I remember seeing was a fat guy on a motorcycle. Now, he was a little older. He was 35. But I'm just using that as an example that the Mets have always done this.
Did he win a Cy Young?
With Detroit.
Okay. Fat guys on mopeds. Okay.
Yeah. He didn't get close with the Mets, but, you know, we all had to think it was cool that he rode in on his motorcycle. And no offense to Mickey. Like, it's just, when you were rooting for that team back then, those were the scraps you got. And now, even though they're supposed to be a contending team, it's still the same old scraps because Porcello had no control last year. Does that mean he's going to have control this year? I don't know. And if he doesn't, then it's not a good signing. And the same with Wacha. If he stays healthy, great. But when's the last time he stayed healthy? These are the kinds of guys they always seem to bring in as their extra pitchers.
Yeah.
And you know what? Did it work out with Cologne? Sure. But you know, that was the exception, and it doesn't work out most of the time. Vargas, it really didn't work out. So, you know, I don't know what to say about it.
Well, our mutual friend Jan Levine went on Twitter and said, you know, what's the difference between these two guys and Wheeler? You know, the money is fairly close. And I said to him, term and injury history. I mean, You got to remember, Wheeler missed large chunks with arm problems and shoulder.
No, but he's been good the last couple of years.
Yes, I'm saying, you know, obviously they made the commitment financially to sign DeGrom, and now that looks like a great deal because compared to some of the other pitchers who just signed recently. DeGrom is an equal probably, or maybe even a little better than Cole because he won 2 Cy Youngs in a row. But he's making, what is he making in the low 20s and or 25, 26, something like that?
It's a 137 for
5.
For 5.
So, yeah, 25, 26.
25, 26. But he'll have another kick at the can.
Right.
And people that think he got screwed, he might do better on the second half of this deal. So just relax on that.
Right.
End of the day, Wheeler may have more starts than both these guys combined next year. And that's what you have to look at. And if that's the case, then it's poor cost management, even though, yes, term-wise, they don't have to worry about these guys. But the worst part is Lugo and Gesellman don't want to be in the bullpen. And now they're guaranteed to be in the bullpen.
And you know why they're doing that? Because they don't want to pay them.
No, it's not that. It's because the bullpen stinks.
Well, the bullpen stinks, but okay, just extrapolate from this. If they put Gesellman or they put Lugo in the rotation and they have good years, then they will have to pay them.
Yeah, but in baseball, you're only talking about arbitration each year, so you'll have to pay them more, but not like an exorbitant amount. They're still like that, young into their careers. But yeah, it's a mess though. You're gonna have guys still out of the bullpen that don't want to be there.
Yeah, I'll just mention something quickly here because I was a.
And then when we start, I'll have some breaking news too.
Okay, it was an abomination. It was, and I won't take too long on this because it was just an observation. It was just an abomination yesterday. I know that, like you see, during the holidays, during like Valentine's Day, there's a company that does the teddy bear thing with the whole, and it's like a Valentine bear and it's supposed to be cute. Well, I shrieked in horror when I saw on the Yes Network during a commercial. It wasn't them that was running the commercial. They just sell commercial time. The Trumpy bear. And it's a bear with a blonde bad wig and a high collar and a big red tie, probably covering its genitals.
It started it in 2017, and I can't imagine they've sold too many of them.
I don't remember. See, this is the thing. It's been that long. I've never seen that commercial before. And it's like, what? I mean, it's got to be because I bet you it's being run by some subsidiary of the Trump Corporation. And I'm sure it's like free advertising for the political campaign.
Of course. I mean, it's like, well, we've got this flag in the back. Well, unzip this. And there's a flag in the back that you can use for Flag Day. Well, gee, how many times has Trump mentioned Flag Day? But again, I don't think the product is done well.
Oh, my God. Just horrific. Anyway, hello, Hockey World. Today is Thursday, December 12th, 2019.
I'm Russ Cohen from Sportsology.
And I'm Michael Agello, and this is the HockeyBuzzcast here on HockeyBuzz.com. All right, we have to start with the big news.
Breaking news. I've got breaking.
We'll go breaking news first.
Yeah. So I saw an Instagram post from Vitaly Kravtsov, the Rangers, one of their top prospects, sort of like thanking the team that he's on. Hey, it's been great. You don't get a great, perfect translation out of it. So I checked with a source. And right now, it looks like the team he was on was looking to trade him, and nobody wanted him in a trade. So now it does appear like it's possible he'll come back to North America. So does that mean he'll play for Hartford? Yeah, I guess so. But it's a fluid situation right now, so you don't really know what's going to happen. But his value there is not great. And so right now, he's getting battered, by Ranger fans. They're thinking like they got a bust of a pick. It's really not that, but right now he probably didn't enjoy it in the KHL, so he went back in Hartford. So he went back over to KHL. Maybe things didn't work out on the team he was on. Then he got sent down to their junior hockey league, and I guess the team was trying to trade him, couldn't trade him. So now he probably doesn't want to be in the juniors there because he had done that before. So he may end up back in Hartford, but I still can't call him a bust because there is talent there. He just has to settle in somewhere. It's probably immaturity at this point.
Yeah, maybe he thought he was going to go back to the KHL and make more than $70,000 on an ELC, and I get that. And we've talked about that before in terms of KHL players maybe getting more money on entry-level deals or something like that. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but, he's, 19, going on 20 or maybe even 20. I am not looking at his birth date.
I'll look at it in a minute.
Yeah, but I think we talked about him being possibly on the World Junior.
19 going on 20.
Yeah, what's his birthday's in December, right?
Yeah, it's the 23rd. I only know that because of that post that I did on Twitter where I was literally 3 days off. So yes.
Yeah, he missed the cutoff for the World Junior. So, but the point being is that especially players who KHL teams know are not going to be staying in the KHL for a couple years. You know, he's probably good. It's just like a one and done thing. They're not going to all of a sudden give him tons of ice time.
Right.
So, you know, that he probably thought he would go back there and he'd be welcomed with open arms. The other thing, and before we get to our big news, is I saw reports a couple days ago that I think it was CSKA Moscow. It was trying to extend Sorokin for 3 more years to you know, because it's been talked about that he was going to come over and play for the Islanders, and that they're trying to extend him. And if he signed a 3-year deal, by the time he would become a free agent from the KHL, he would be an unrestricted free agent in the NHL. So that wouldn't be good for the Islanders, because obviously that guy is somebody that they've been aiming at as a potential future number 1.
I guess that is what's called leverage, Mike. And so what they're trying to do is get the Islanders to give him probably some sort of assurances. And if Lou doesn't, then he'll probably sign that extension.
Right. What he's probably saying is, give me a 1-year deal, because I believe like he's going to be like a Nikita Zaitsev situation or Ilya Mikheyev, where they sign a 1-year deal, then they're eligible for arbitration, and then they could sign an extension. Whereas Lou probably wants to get him as cheap as he possibly can for as long as he can, and is holding his feet to the fire. And he's going to have to give up a little bit, or give up a little leverage in this situation. Otherwise, he's not going to get the guy.
All
right. The big news yesterday was the unexpected firing of Peter DeBoer. Now, earlier in the year, people were expecting it because the Sharks started off terribly, but they bounced back, had a long winning streak, got back to 500. Now they've lost, I believe it was 4 in a row, and now at 15, 16, and 2. DeBoer is fired, and they have fired almost into the entire staff, with the exception of Bob Bugner, the former Florida Panthers coach, who will now take over as the interim. What did you think of this, Russ?
It's a little surprising now, but I kind of wonder if after the little bit of a uptick that they had after they got Marlowe, after they started playing better, did things start to maybe slip again? And did someone like Marlowe say, hey, you know, things aren't running right here? Because he would be the one guy that could probably see the difference, because he was brought in when they were lousy, they got better, and then they started to slip a little, right? And so I'm wondering if he's the factor here.
Well, and I know
they would listen to him.
Yeah, they would, but I know, and Doug Wilson would. I'm sure they would listen to Thornton as well.
Yeah.
But I know that Brian Burke and Elliot Friedman both mentioned the same thing yesterday, that they traded for and signed Evander Kane, and then gave him the extension at about $7 million. They traded for and they signed Erik Karlsson and made him the highest paid defenseman in history of the NHL. And then when it came time for Joe Pavelski, who was their captain, who had been drafted, had been there his entire career, they said, thanks, but no thanks, Joe. And how that may have had an effect on the internal structure of that team. And maybe that was only borne out over the last 30 games. I mean, I think that's possible.
What does that have to do with DeBoer? He's not the GM.
Right, but they can't fire or trade these guys, and this is the situation. It's we always use that adage. It's easier to fire one coach than to trade 23 players.
Right.
And in this cap system, I mean, look at it. Over the last 5 weeks, and I know there's some that had extenuating circumstances or circumstances that were not related to the play of the team on the ice. But in 5 weeks since American Thanksgiving, which is the time that usually there are tons of trades, you've had 5 coaches fired from November 20th in Babcock to December 11th and DeBoer. There have been 5 coaches fired in 3 weeks. And that just tells you something. Is that it sort of tells you that the option of going out and making a deal before firing the coach, those days are gone because there's no cap flexibility or there's no willingness with teams to make these moves. Otherwise, I mean, DeBoer made the conference final last year.
I know.
Jim, now we don't know we still don't know what the off the ice things that led to Montgomery's firing, but he got to the second round of the playoffs last year. So, so we're talking Babcock, Peters, Hines, Montgomery, and now DeBoer. And again, I said, when Montgomery got fired, I wonder whether there was some news out there that we don't know about that contributed to him getting the lowest odds or the highest odds of being fired. I still don't know the answer to that. We still don't know. I don't know whether we will ever know what led to that firing. I'm assuming we'll find out eventually. But
I don't know. I mean, for all of the culture change, we're getting less transparency on these firings than ever before.
Right. I mean,
I don't know why DeBoer's fired. All we were told is, well, it's not. It has nothing to do with culture. It's just hockey.
Yeah.
What is it? I mean, I think we'd like to know a little bit.
Well, I mean, I think it's with DeBoer. I think it's obvious. It's like here you have a team.
Tell you what it is, because what happens is in this kind of situation right now, with the way things are, if you don't spell it out, you're going to lead people down another path. That's
right. I think the only thing that they did was to make sure that DeBoer's reputation wasn't tarnished by saying, well, it wasn't something like Peters. It wasn't something like Montgomery. It was a purely hockey decision, meaning they were losing.
Still say what that decision was. Have we seen a press conference from Doug Wilson? Do we have an answer as to why?
No.
Now,
what are your thoughts on Bugner? I know you were a critic of Bugner.
I'm a critic. Give him another shot, fine, but let's see what he does this go round. I mean,
he's got the talent.
He had the talent in Florida.
Well, some people didn't think he had enough talent. Remember, he had
how much better is Florida now with Quenneville player-wise than with Bugner? There's almost no difference.
Well, Bobrovsky, I think that's the difference.
That's the biggest difference.
Yes. I mean, you had a 40-year-old injury-plagued Luongo and a sieve in James Reimer. You're going
to say it's all on the goalie? I don't buy it.
I don't buy it. I'm not saying it's all on the goalie, but I mean, heck, I saw a report yesterday that Michael Matheson was healthy scratched in the last game. So, and this is a guy they haven't contract for 7 or 4 years. What's that?
It doesn't shock me. I told you he's been overrated from the get-go.
Right.
For 3 years I've been saying it, but whatever.
Huh? I didn't hear. Now, okay, asking the open question. Who's next? Because you have, and this is only speculation, and we hope that these coaches don't get fired. But you have to, when it's 5 coaches in 3 weeks, it's a trend, and usually, and don't think that the holiday, the holidays upcoming would have a factor. I'm sure Wilson was not going to pull the trigger on DeBoer if it was December 20th.
No,
5 days before Christmas. So he got it out of the way now.
But so what team is a minus differential and only 4 points better than the worst team in the West?
Well, he just got hired, so they're not firing him.
Jeremy Colleton?
Oh, I thought you were talking about Dallas Aikens.
No. But right now, Chicago is only 4 points ahead of the Kings. How much do they have to bottom out before they realize that they got to try something else? Because there's only so much they could do player-wise, right? There's not much they can do.
Well, the only thing I think mitigates that possibility is the fact that he was just hired in the middle of last year.
But it doesn't matter. He's not a long-term.
From what Bowman says, he's a long-term solution.
Yeah, whatever. I mean, he could say that.
Right. I mean, we've talked about Boudreau. I'm just going through the teams here. We've talked about Boudreau, but
Minnesota has played well.
But Minnesota has turned it around. But let's just say this: if Minnesota has another dip, another long,
then it could happen. Sure,
he's in the last year of his contract.
Yes.
So, honestly, I think the one, and I said this on the radio today. I said that the one that made the most sense would be Laviolette.
Yeah, I'm not buying it.
Yeah, because right now Nashville's 14, 10, and 5. I mean, they're 4 points out of a wild card spot. They're 5 points. Sorry, they are 7 points out of third place in the Central. So that's a big gap.
I'm going John Cooper and Jeremy Colleton.
Yeah. Okay. So in the West, for me, I would say Laviolette. In the East, I don't know if Yzerman will fire Blashill in season because there's no reason to.
There's no reason to.
Yeah, because they suck. They're terrible. They're tanking. So everything is going in the direction of tanking. So why would you do it? New Jersey's on an interim right now. Ottawa hired DJ Smith. I don't think Tortorella is in danger. Quinn's not in danger. Yeah, you're probably right. It's probably Cooper, but I don't think Cooper's going to get fired until
we get past the All-Star break.
Yeah,
and they're not in playoff position. He could get fired.
Yeah, and that's stunning if that happens.
But I mean, if you think about it, they have cup aspirations. If you get that far and you're still struggling to make the playoffs, they may make a change to fire up those guys because they have the talent, and they'll probably still do something at the deadline too.
Sorry, I always get these crank phone calls.
Right. They can't let their season go up in flames. You know what I mean? They can't.
No, they can't. I mean, the funny thing is that they face the same decision that, say, Toronto did with all their talent.
Right.
Toronto made the decision earlier. I think the thing that hangs over Tampa Bay is all those games in hand. And once they draw even in the schedule, if they're still behind, then maybe Brisebois pulls the trigger. But and as I've said, I would think that a big factor here, and you don't think it's a factor because the owners are billionaires, but Cooper signed an extension, and I think he's making $4 million a year.
Whatever.
Well, I mean, hey, if I'm a billionaire, fine, but some of these guys don't want to pay two coaches at the same time.
They'll do it because, again, if their season crashes and burns, they've got bigger problems than what one coach's salary still doesn't equal what you could lose by not making the playoffs for the entire playoff revenue.
Now, did you? I don't know if you texted me something about one of these coaches maybe popping up again somewhere, or was that just speculation, or was that something?
By the way, the reason why I think Tampa could make the move is Benoit Gruel is the guy who could literally come up from the AHL and coach. Yeah,
he's coached most of the young guys. He's got an excellent reputation, coached Team Canada in the World Juniors a few years ago, has been really good for Syracuse as an AHL coach. Yeah, he would probably be the one to step up.
There's just talk in the air. I'm not hearing from sources or anything, but would it shock you if Peter DeBoer goes back to New Jersey? And the reason I say that is back in the day, Larry Robinson went back a second time. A lot of players and coaches have in that market. I could see DeBoer going back there because I'm hearing whispers of, Lane Nazarene, not so great. Now, the team's not so great either. I get it. But they have to, by next year, they have to have some sort of direction. Mm-hmm. And you might as well start it now because, yes, you might want to bottom out and get as good a pick as you want. Mm-hmm. But that's not going to save Ray Shiro's job. You know what I mean? He has to look. His job is starting to dwindle there. And so it wouldn't shock me if he tries to bring DeBoer back.
Well, I mean, Hines was his first hire in New Jersey, so he's going to get one more kick at the can, and he's going to have to. It's going to have to be.
DeBoer's a totally competent coach, so
yeah, sure. I questioned because somebody brought it up, and I sort of poo-pooed it, but does Babcock get another chance?
No, not this year.
Yeah, I think he's going to have to wait. I think he's going to have to go on some sort of forgiveness tour, like do interviews and say, well, I know my tactics, my motivational things were, not sensitive, what I'm saying? He's going to have to do a mea culpa.
Yeah.
And then maybe now the thing is, I don't know how genuine that will be. I don't know if that'll just be for public consumption. Or if that will be, legitimate in terms of like, okay, he's going to sincerely change his ways, because you can say whatever you want to say and then in the locker room just be the same guy.
Yeah.
But I mean, that's one thing that would be exposed by some of the new measures that the NHL are putting in place. But, if he goes back to being a hard ass, then, it's very possible that it wouldn't work. But I mean, he's going to have to go through a vetting process, whereas normally he could probably pick and choose any job that he wanted. So,
yeah. Oh, he's going to go through a vetting process, but nobody's hiring Mike Babcock this year. I'm not even sure anybody's hiring him next year.
Yeah. With so many vacancies, though, I'm sure the temptation will be there. But
the temptation will be there, but the problem is you have to now deal with the PR part of that too.
Yeah, yeah, and he's always been expert at handling the media, but
now it's not going to be so nice.
Now it's going to be confrontation. I mean, really, I don't remember anybody, and this is not a criticism because I'm equally as guilty. I don't remember anybody ever really getting Babcock's kitchen.
Yeah,
in terms of pressing him in media scrums, because he handles it so well. And even if you did, he doesn't answer the question. He's very slick in terms of avoiding. You ask him a pointed question, he's going to go down the road that he wants to go, not down the road you want to go. So at a certain point, it's like, okay, why even bother? But he's not going to be able to get away with that anymore, because some of the stuff that stayed internal with the Leafs and with the Wings probably shouldn't have. And now we know why it did, because it was embarrassing to him, and I think destructive to some of the players that he did it to, like Johan Franzen.
I have more breaking news.
Go ahead.
Now, this one, some people in the chat room are not going to like it, but we have to bring it up.
Okay.
MLB just admitted that they lowered the seam height, causing the home run surge in the baseball.
Oh,
we all knew this.
Excuse me. Yesterday they said there was no change in the ball, which was a load of shit. I mean, oh my God. I'm sorry, guys. It's because we have to talk about hockey, but and we want to talk about hockey. But please, home runs went up what, by 100%?
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Anyway, all right. There were 3 games last night. I watched most of 2 of them. Capitals beating the Bruins 3-2 last night. The highlight of the game for me was a fight between Zdeno Chara and Tom Wilson. Oof. Yes. Yeah.
I would not want to break up that fight, man. They were throwing.
Let them exhaust themselves.
But, neither of them were dirty. At least it was done fairly. And Chara did end up on top, but I felt like it was a draw.
Yeah, I mean, it was a heavyweight bout. It was definitely something that I would like to see again, and it's really missing from this game. And I don't know if it's ever going to come back. But yeah, no, it was good. And I'll tell you that for those who don't believe, and I know that you've been talking about this for a while, Carlson with another goal last night where he just picked the corner on Halak. He's just really
there's nobody better.
Yeah, right now he's just having that kind of year where it's just everything is going right for him.
Yeah, everything's going right for him. Same with that team. I mean, again, we've talked about it. We have said there are some teams that are bad matchups for other teams. Right now for Boston, that's the worst possible matchup is the Caps.
Yeah, in that other division, that would be the toughest matchup for them.
They don't beat the Caps. They have trouble with them. Guy Oshie destroyed them last night with a couple goals. They are just a little faster, and they get more secondary scoring than the Bruins do.
Well, think of it this way, though.
And they're just as good defensively.
think of it this way: if they play the Capitals pose the same problem for the Bruins that the Blues did. The Bruins are usually the team that pushes teams around, Toronto especially. They did it with they did it with Columbus. Columbus tried to out physical them, and the Bruins weathered it and responded in kind. The only team that they couldn't do that to is St. Louis. St. Louis, kicked their teeth in physically, beat down on Bergeron, Marchand, Pasternak, wore out their defense. Washington can do that. I mean, maybe Chara standing up to Wilson was a way of saying you're not going to get away with this stuff, but it's not just Wilson. Ovechkin runs over people. They're a very physical team.
Yeah, although there's no question about it. I mean, again, the difference between those two teams is the secondary scoring for Washington. That is literally the difference.
Yeah, they're getting it. They're getting it from, even guys like Richard Panik.
Yeah.
Third, fourth line guys. But Vrana, it's not just Backstrom, Oshie, Ovechkin, and Kuznetsov. They're getting Vrana. They're getting goals from their blue line, from Carlson, who's in the top 10 in the league in scoring. So, yeah, they pose a big problem for teams in terms of knowing who and where to shut them down. The Canadians beat the Ottawa Senators 3-2. In overtime, a goal by former Winnipeg Jet defenseman Ben Sherratt. Canadians had a 2-0 lead in this game. Senators came back. I found this anecdote a little funny, but typical of a Tkachuk. I'm not sure if you saw this, Russ. Caden Primo was his second NHL start. It was his first NHL win. Sherratt scores the winning goal in overtime. Apparently, Brady Tkachuk picked up the puck and started skating toward the Ottawa bench. Carey Price hopped off the bench and intercepted Tkachuk to get the puck because it was obviously Caden Primo's first win. Price insinuated after the game that Brady Tkachuk was trying to steal the puck, and Brendan Gallagher just reiterated that he was being a troll and trying to get underneath the skin.
Gallagher should know.
Right, yeah, I was gonna say Gallagher's a premium rat, so he should know those tactics. But that's just fun. You gotta love these Tkachuk kids because Matthew has gotten under the skin of Drew Doughty, and now that's a war. And now Brady Tkachuk is doing it with the Canadians. So this is great. I love it.
Great. That's good stuff. Tkachuk knows he was going to give the puck back, but he just wanted to create a little stir because they lost the game, and so he did. He's got that a-hole in him. I don't, that's fine. The thing about Primo is, as a 20-year-old goalie, the same things we said about Carter Hart now. The difference is Primo is probably more built up physically than Carter Hart was, but he's played a lot less games than Carter Hart. So you still have to worry.
Yeah, I have to say I was very impressed with his physical abilities because he's very lanky and very really good reflexes. A big goaltender. So,
riggers, but I don't know what happens if you play him 20 games.
Right, and they don't have to because they have Price. But I think this has been a little bit of a nice preview for them, and I don't know whether Primo's going to I'm assuming he's probably going to go back down to Laval. The rumors were that he was going to play a few games, and Kincaid was going to play a few games to get some confidence back in the AHL and come back. But
that would be the best case scenario.
Yeah. The other game, I'm not sure how much you watched this. The Avalanche beat the Flyers 3-1. Rantanen with a couple goals. I know the Flyers have been, they've had a higher level of success than a lot of people thought, but I don't know. There's something looking at the Flyers. I look at a team that I think their goaltending is good, but they played Elliott a lot more than I would like them to have if I was a fan of theirs. I like Provorov a lot, but I don't know if I like the depth of the defense. And up front, they've gotten good performances out of guys like Giroux and Couturier, but the JVRs and the forechecks, the guys who have big money salaries, they're not performing. So they're sort of a mixed bag for me.
Yeah, the veterans are not pulling their weight. And I had gone on, our Stick to Hockey podcast that I do with Jason Rutias and basically say, hey, without Konechny, they're missing like a spark and a fire starter and a guy who makes players better. Some of their other veterans are not living up to that. At this point, I would move JVR off the fourth line and just put him back on the second line and hope for the best. You've got to start getting production out of them, and you're not getting it on that fourth line. They had JVR, Vorobiev, and Stewart. Like, nothing was going to happen on that line. The biggest thing was they started out that game slow, and by slow, I mean with foot speed, and they ended that game slow, and by slow, I mean foot speed. And I'm, the answers I'm getting on Twitter is, well, you're right, but Colorado is one of the fastest teams in the league. But I've told you there have been other teams that are exploiting them because they are slow at times, and Colorado exploited it the whole game to the point where everybody had to talk about it because it was undeniable. So that is a problem they're going to have for the entire season unless they pick up faster players. Putting a guy like Stewart in is not going to help that situation. So we'll see what happens with it. The goaltending wasn't the issue. The issue was the speed and the chances as a result of that.
Just have to go back to this because it was so entertaining. Brady Tkachuk after the game yesterday regarding the puck. Honestly, I didn't even realize it was his first win.
Right.
Yeah, I know Primo. I played with him at the under-18 Worlds, and we won a gold medal.
That's why he did it.
Yeah, gold medal together. I know him pretty well. Honestly, I didn't even think of it. When I saw him, I was like, oh, okay. I didn't even realize. I just was going to give the puck to a kid in the stands.
And you know that Primo texted him after the game. You know he did. That's funny.
Oh, my God. That's great.
That is very, very funny. Look, of course they know each other. They were teammates. But that's the kind of fun you could have when you're playing against somebody you know. And, good for Carey Price, though, for doing the right thing in case Primo was having vapor lock, but I don't believe it.
Okay. Just to take a quick look at the standings here, then we'll take some questions before we end the show here. Right now, the race, when I mentioned the fact that in the West, that Nashville was 7 points out of third place in the Central. This is how far the gap is. The Central, you have Colorado at 43 with a plus 29 goal differential, which is fantastic. In first place, St. Louis a 1 point behind at 42. As I mentioned earlier, St. Louis didn't look very good against Buffalo. They had some players out of the lineup, and Jake Allen really cost them that game. Winnipeg at 40, and then it drops to, and then Dallas is at 39. In one of the first wild card spots, and then it drops from 39 to 33. Minnesota and Nashville. So that's a 6 point gap in the wild card, a 7 point gap for third place. I mean that's a big split in the middle of December.
So far that is. I mean, but it could still be made up though. We're not at a danger point yet for a lot of teams. We're not yet.
Now. Here is illustrating my opinion that the Edmonton Oilers will miss the playoffs. They are first in the Pacific Division with 40 points. I think they've looked pretty bad the last few games. They're tied with Arizona at 40 points. Calgary, who has won 6 in a row and played Toronto tonight, who fired their coach, not because their record was bad, but because of all the things that happened off the ice. Calgary is at 38, and Vegas is at 37, and that's the last wild card spot. So Edmonton right now is 4 points out of falling out of the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, we illustrated it and said it would be a slow bleed, and that's exactly what's happening. We'll see how Koskinen plays after giving up that goal the way he did, right? He hasn't played since, has he?
No, they haven't played a game since that one.
Right. So we'll see if that's gotten to his head. They have a problem, and I'm sure Ken Holland knows it. He's got a one-line team. That's it.
All right, we'll take this question. Anybody else has some questions in the chat? We'll go back and look at the East in a second here, but I wanted to get this because it's a good one. Caleb asks, if Tristan Jarry keeps up his play, do you think the Penguins? Do you think the Penguins will entertain offers for Matt Murray, who is a free agent at the end of the year? I don't think he's unrestricted at the end of this year.
No, he's not unrestricted.
I thought it was. Hold on, I'm looking it up right now. Murray is a arbitration eligible restricted free agent at the end of this year.
Right.
I believe he's 2 years away from unrestricted free agency. But with 2 Stanley Cups in arbitration, he's probably going to get, I would say, probably in the $6 million range, something like that.
Yeah. They don't have a choice. They're not just going to give Jarry the job. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing I'd be I'm not concerned with Matt Murray and his abilities to play good goal. I'm concerned about Matt Murray's durability in terms of being able to stay healthy.
Right, but you can manage that to a certain degree. You're still not going to give Jarry the job. Like, it's not going to happen.
Right. I think, they're going to either trade Jarry or Casey DeSmith before the expansion draft, which is in the summer of 2021. I would probably lean toward it being Jarry because I think Casey DeSmith, it's very possible that Seattle would pass on Casey DeSmith as, somebody they would pick as a goaltender. They're not passing.
What's the name of that team?
Seattle. Oh, we don't know the name yet.
No. When are we going to find out? My God.
Well, the Seattle Sockeyes, the Seattle Kraken.
The Kraken will be horrible if they do that.
Yeah, I honestly, I would love, even though
I can call it a day. Like,
even though it will be it's the name of a baseball team that I don't like, I would love it to be the Seattle Metropolitans because that was their name. That was their name, the old Metropolitans back in the old days of the NHL. I'd love that.
Old. I thought you were just going to go Pilots. Okay.
No, that's the baseball. That's the Milwaukee Brewers. But no, the Seattle Metropolitans.
Oh, they were Seattle Pilots. They weren't the Milwaukee Brewers. The Seattle Pilots that was the name of the Seattle team.
Right, and then they moved to Milwaukee.
I know what they moved to, but I'm just saying they could go back to that name. Doesn't matter what they turned into.
Yeah.
They won't.
All right.
Don't do Kraken. That sounds horrible.
Yeah, the Kraken is weak.
I mean, I got to tell you right now, if they go that route, they'll get destroyed on Twitter with trolls. Just think about that for a minute.
Well, I mean, I'm sure there'll be ass Kraken jokes.
All of those.
El Guapo asks, will there be a trade before the holiday trade freeze? I think there will be. I think it might be minor, but I think
Taylor Hall.
You think Taylor Hall will be moved before?
I do. I really think they want to get him out quick, and I think there are a few teams that wouldn't mind doing a deal right now and getting it done before the holidays.
Funky Cold Zadina calls
a Hanukkah break.
Yeah, Funky Cold Zadina calls the latest segment Anna Buzz.
Nice.
Yes. How many coaches will be fired before the All-Star game? Dean Youngblood asks. Well, if Racky was a coach, I think they'd fire him.
I think Jeremy Colvin. That's my choice.
Yeah, I think one more would be one of the two that I mentioned, either Laviolette or Cooper. But I think leaning more toward Laviolette because Nashville is, after that quick start, has really been not that impressive. Let's see here, a couple more. Terry's GG&G. Thoughts on if JVR is regretting signing with Philly versus staying in Toronto for cheaper, or are we seeing JVR's career on the downswing now in Philly? Okay,
I don't think he's regretting anything. He got a hell of a contract.
Yeah, he got paid. He's not
regretting a thing.
Yeah,
sorry.
Go ahead.
I don't think the Flyers are regretting it yet, but if we're at the All-Star break and he's still playing this way, the regret could start to sink in.
Yeah, this is the thing. There was literally no chance that the Leafs were going to spend the money to re-sign JVR.
Agreed.
Under Babcock, he was a third-line guy and power play specialist. He didn't trust him defensively, whereas it's funny, in 2013, during that big collapse in Game 7 against Boston, there were 3 forwards that were out for most of that last five minutes. One was Nikolai Kulemin. The other was Jay McClement, who was their best defensive center and faceoff guy, and the other was JVR. And JVR is never been and never will be good defensively. He's adequate, but not good.
Yeah, no, that's all set. That's all right. That's all correct.
All right, let's see here. A couple more things, and then we'll get going here. Esmir is saying that he believes Colorado, the Islanders, and maybe the Habs are the most likely to get Hall. I saw reports yesterday that said that the Habs are not in on Hall at all.
Yeah, I believe that. I didn't think they were. I think Colorado, yes. Islanders, yes. Calgary, yes.
Dallas,
maybe also.
St. Louis, possibly.
St. Louis, possibly too.
Arizona, possibly.
And Arizona. Yep, I think all those.
Okay, Funky asks, is Asgarov, the Russian goalie, as good or better than Spencer Knight? I heard something about Spencer Knight yesterday that said some people think Spencer Knight is already ready for the NHL.
Well, I think he has something like a 940 save percentage. Look it up. It might be higher than that.
I'll look it up, yeah.
It's crazy. I've seen a little bit of Askarov. He's certainly really good. Really, he a lot of physical ability, very fast post to post. He does remind you of
Samsonov?
No, not Samsonov. Vasilevsky. I think there's a little bit of a reminder there. Spencer Knight is really funny because he is like that textbook goalie where he is by the book, does everything right, hard to rattle. Boy, I don't know. I mean, I don't think he's as good as. I can't say he's better.
Here you go. Spencer Knight in 15 games with Boston College. He's 11-4, 1.73 goals against, and a 940 save percentage.
Yeah, 940. I was right. So, yeah.
Yowza. That's really good. And now, I mean, does that mean that Florida is immediately regretting the 10-year contract to?
No, because it will still take Spencer Knight time to get to the NHL.
Right.
He might spend another year or two in college. Then he's going to go to the AHL. Then he's going to be a backup goalie with Florida. So no, I don't think there's that worry. Thomas
Boyle asks, today is game 9 for Noah Dobson with the Islanders.
Yeah.
Does he end up staying with the Islanders or going back to junior?
No, I think he's staying, but would it shock me if he went back to junior last minute? No, but I think he's probably staying, but it's hard to tell with the Islanders. You never know what they're going to do with a player like that. I mean, what are the Rangers doing with Georgiev? I think he's only got one game until they figure out what's happening with him, right? So as far as the waivers thing goes.
Yeah, and you got to remember the Islanders can use the delay tactic of
just sitting him in the press box.
No, they can let him go.
No, they can't.
No, he's 19. He's not. His birth date is January 7th, so he could go. And I'm sure they would want him because he's been on the team the last 2 years.
Yeah. Oh, they definitely would want him, and they could go that route. I think that's the possibility is greater. That's the route they're going to go.
Yeah. Let's see here. Caleb again. Can you think of any teams who would be interested in trading for Alex Galchenyuk? Well, Elliot Friedman mentioned Buffalo.
Yeah, I think Buffalo makes sense.
Buffalo makes sense because, and okay, I'm going to be a little harsh on Galchenyuk, but that doesn't. That's not new because I've been harsh on him for a number of years. He was drafted as a center. He wasn't a center. Montreal tried to force feed him into being a center. He wasn't a center. Now, I don't know if that ruined him because he did score 30 goals for them. He did have some success, but then he gets traded to Arizona for Max Domi. Domi has a lot of success in Arizona. He was minus like 19 with the Coyotes last year, which I think was their worst plus minus on a team that was really good defensively. And then they decided they want to get rid of him, and he was dumped to Pittsburgh as part of the Kessel deal. He had a year left in his contract. He's got 10 points in 22 games. And now Rutherford comes out last week and says, when all of our forwards are healthy, he's not going to be in our top 12. So that's a $4.9 million albatross around Rutherford's neck for the rest of the year. I think he would trade him for a bag of pucks.
I think the Rangers might be interested.
I think the Sabres would be interested because I think looking at Pittsburgh's defense, you've got two guys who always get injured in Letang and in Justin Schultz. Dumoulin is out. I think it's out long term. And the Sabres have two defensemen making around what Galchenyuk is making in Zach Bogosian and in Marco Scandella. It would be relieving the Sabres' glut on defense to provide them somebody who could be a top six forward for them, whereas I don't think he'd be a top six forward anywhere else.
I think you could. I think you might be able to get Buchnevich for Galchenyuk. I do.
Really? I
do.
Buchnevich has fallen that much out of favor?
Yep.
Wow. That's stunning. Let's see. Any more questions here? I don't know why anybody would want to tell us that Hall and Oates are coming in March. I don't really care.
We don't care, but they know it's going to annoy me. So fine, go waste your money. What do you want me to do? By the way, Buchnevich only has 5 goals and 19 points, but his ice time and where he plays and everything has all been askew this year. So I do think it's possible.
Michael asks, I know he's hurt, but does Jimmy Howard get traded? Only if he comes back with enough
time to prove himself healthy.
Right. And more than likely he goes to a team like a Colorado or a San Jose who a lot of people think. I mean, Colorado right now, they're getting good goaltending out of Grubauer and out of Francouz, so you can't say that they're not getting
okay. Last night they said Francouz. I heard 4 different pronunciations by the same crew.
Jeez. But San Jose, I think the firing of DeBoer, if you wanted to pick a culprit, the biggest culprit in the demise of Peter DeBoer, his name is Martin Jones. Because Martin Jones, for the last 2 years, has been a below-average goaltender, and they needed average to above-average goaltending to have success, and they didn't.
Lately.
Yeah, but it's just been consistent around like 890 to 900, and that's not good enough. So
I wonder if San Jose would reach out for Georgiev. I wonder.
Maybe he's cheap.
He's cheap. They could give a prospect up for him, a good one.
Would the Oilers look at Howard? Well, he's a UFA, so it would only be you'd probably have to trade.
They don't need Howard. What are you talking about? Ken Hitchcock said he's the best.
Yep. Okay. Flamester asks, where does Pajot go? I think Pajot goes.
The Penguins would have interest. You might see the Galchenyuk trade go that way with a little inducement. There's a couple of possibilities.
Edmonton makes sense because he's relative low salary, and you could put him. I know he's a center, but you could put him on the wing with one of those guys. I mean, the thing is he's having a good year, and he's making enough money that there'd probably be like about 10 suitors. So we're basically sticking a tack into a map and saying, here's where we're going to go. So it's, right. I mean, there's no way of really knowing, but I think there's about 10 teams that would be interested. Caleb, the questions, here we go. Okay. Who ends up being the Leafs backup by the end of the year?
Michael Hutchinson.
I don't know. I think that if this continues to be as big of a problem,
it's difficult.
Yeah, the situation is difficult. It really is. I mean, it was conveyed to, I read some article that mentioned like Pierre Engvall is playing really well as a fourth line guy on the team, penalty killing. He's on an ELC. He's making $925,000. Freddie Gauthier and Nick Batan, those guys are making $675,000 to $700,000. They can't even keep Engvall with the difference of $200,000 because it causes problems. So if you're looking for a goaltender who makes more than Hutchinson's $800,000, you're in trouble. So it means probably moving out Cody Ceci so he could clear his salary or something like that, and that's going to be difficult to do with a really
Freddie Anderson play more. That's what's going to happen.
No, I mean that's a recipe for disaster.
What's going to happen?
No, I know, but I'm saying that's a recipe for disaster.
Yes.
Okay. Dean says I have a new gray anonymous shirt. Give me Mike's address. Yeah, how about 123 go to hell lane? All right, that's enough. Enough fun and frivolity for one day. We will be back tomorrow with another edition of the Hockey Buzzcast. For Russ Cohen, I'm Michael Agello. Thanks for watching, and remember, without the buzz, it's just hockey.